What's up, ladies and gents, Noli here, welcome to another Payday 2 video. Today I want to take a look at the Meltdown heist. This is a full guide tutorial. Going to be walking you through, first of all, what you have to do in the heist, some of my first impressions, and some important mentions of mod suitability. Huxford right now does not seem to be working. It's the reason why I was unable to complete my Death Wish mission you're seeing right now. I get quite a long way through it, get through the hard part. We're about to drive off into the sunset, but sadly, this big ol' Huxford glitch hits, and I don't know why I didn't see this coming. It's happened before in the past. If you're going to be doing this heist, turn your Huxford off. Wait till Huxford's update. I'm sure it'll be fine after that. They're very fast to fix these problems. In fact, when you're listening to this, it may already be fixed. But as of right now, if you run Huxford, it will assume that when you pick up the bags from driving the car, essentially, you can drive cars and forklift trucks in this heist, and those can carry up to 4 bags. Well, the car can carry 4 bags. When you get into that car, the game's going to immediately think you're carrying more bags than is originally allowed in the base game. It's going to assume you're trying to spawn bags in. It gets very confused. This is only if you're running Huxford, and it's going to brand that player who did that a cheater. In doing so, one of two things is likely going to happen. That cheater is going to be kicked if you've got auto-kick cheaters on, like you probably should have, or if you don't have that on, the bags seemingly are going to disappear, or that's what happened in my case, and that's going to completely ruin the heist for everybody. Not only the people who are going to be sort of unjustly kicked, but also there's no way you're going to be able to finish the heist on your own. Now, that is a sad issue right now, which has plagued my time with it, but hopefully you guys will be able to avoid it through hearing my struggles. Other than that, though, it's an amazing heist. I got a lot of great things to say about it. There are a couple of, I suppose, small caveats to it all, but we'll go to those in time. So, I'm going to start things off by running you through the stages of the heist, which in itself is reasonably simple, very bag mobility based, which always seems like a bit of a dull platform, but because you're moving these bags in such a unique, new and interesting way, I think it's absolutely fine. Okay, so things start off with you zip lining on down into the compound you guys will remember from Shadow Raid. This is murky water, and we said back then it would be an amazing arena for a loud heist, and it is. It really does suit it. I'm really glad they've chosen this map to reuse. That does bring me to a point of, is it okay for the Overkill gang to be reusing maps and bringing out fully fledged heists with different titles, promising a lot, but using the exact same base model? I personally think it is, especially when they've made as many loud improvements as they have to this one. But other than that, you're going to immediately recognize the compound, and you're going to immediately enjoy the combat there, because it's something that you've always wanted but never quite been able to fully enjoy. You're going to be faced with the Murky Water Specialists, who have an additional amount of health on whatever difficulty you're playing. It's going to be 130 up to Death Wish difficulty. That 130 may cause problems for those of you on normal. Do keep that in mind. They're slightly harder enemies than what you're used to with the usual 80 health bars. But on Death Wish difficulty, I should say, you're looking at a huge health bar on these guys. They're going to be a huge issue early on in the mission. It means you're never going to have any respite, and I really like that 24-hour action you get when you start this mission up. So your first objective is going to be to find this mystery vault inside one of the containers you will remember from the stealth heist itself. Once you've found the vault itself, you need to essentially make it overheat. You're going to do that by shoving crowbars in the fans, as you do, because of the contents inside are heat sensitive. Essentially, this is going to set off the failsafe and open the vault door to you. So it's a nice little concept that they've brought in. It's essentially a drill time, but what I really like about this gameplay interaction is that it rewards you for going out there and searching for the crowbar. So even on Death Wish difficulty, you can't just camp in one area and hold it down. You have to try and remain mobile. You have to try and find these crowbars in their different possible locations, and that's going to speed up the process, because you really don't want to hang around on this mission. The combat's very difficult. Cover can be difficult to find. You're going to find yourself often retreating inside the containers themselves, which, it's a reasonably easy point to hold down, but pushing your way out of there is going to be very difficult. So don't rest on your laurels. Try and consistently move around and fight forward. It's very important. Certain areas are easier to hold down than others, though, especially upstairs. I've found upstairs is a very easy place to hold down, and because this isn't a standard drill, there's no way the cops can stop you from breaking in, which I like to see. It's a slightly different way of working your way into the vault. Now, as far as crowbar spawns are concerned, there are a couple of main positions you're going to find them. Usually on the floor. They can spawn in most of the caged areas, which can be opened either with drills or, if you can find it, the key cards. But yeah, there are spawn points you're going to get very used to after doing the mission a couple of times. Pay attention to where your teammates are picking them up, and it won't be too much of a trouble for you. I think I pick up maybe 4 separate crowbars in this video. You should be able to see a bunch of the different potential starting locations, and there will almost certainly be a crowbar there in one of them. It's very important you get the process going as quickly as possible. As I've already said, making this mission a slow slog is not the way to do it, especially on the harder difficulties. But as I've already mentioned, the contents of the vault which Vlad wants you to steal is heat sensitive, so it's going to give away a little bit. In fact, if you saw the posters for the Meltdown heist, you'll probably know we are getting nukes. Now, these nukes don't explode if you chuck a Molotov grenade at them. Don't worry, they're not actually as sensitive as as Babe might make you want to think, or Vlad himself actually, kind of disconcertingly. So don't worry too much about the fact they are nukes, but it's cool. I enjoy stealing them. I like the premise. They're very heavy though, do keep that in mind. So once you're in, you're going to need to transport these all the way over to the train station. About 500 meters away. That's a long, long way away. That's a very long way to walk with these very heavy bags. Now, that is where the famous forklift trucks come in. Great to see some new vehicle additions, and also to see part of the vehicle driving system to be refined slightly. I still feel there's a lot of room to improve on it. But the driving felt a little weightier this time than their first foray in it in the car shop heist. And I think it's an overall big improvement. And I do like the diversity in the cars. So you have the muscle car that you need to transport to in the first place. And then you also have the forklifts. And, you know, everyone can be driving a different vehicle, which feels great. Or you can hop along on side. There's a real cooperative feel to it all. I do really enjoy that. So the forklifts can take up to three bags. That includes warheads or potential loot you're going to find over the mission. Do keep in mind you need to keep hold of crowbars if you want to unlock all the loot from the mission and get the achievement. But the forklifts are by no means fast, but they are certainly an easy way to carry things because you can load up to 3 bags on them. Now you're going to want to transport these forklifts over to the directional pointer, which is not going to take you all the way to the train station initially. Instead, you're going to meet the muscle car, which is a much faster ride, and it's got a boot which you can fit a couple more bags into, so you're going to have 4 bags in the boot. Now, this is where I think the heist falls down slightly. It's very hard to solo, unless you're on the very easiest difficulty. And that is because carrying can be an issue. While they've made it easier for you, you know, you don't have to carry all 8 bags or 6 bags as it is on normal backwards and forwards. What they've done is they've limited the number of bags you can put in the boot, limited, I think understandably, the number of bags you can put on the forklifts, and as such you're going to have to take at least 2 trips, and that is if you're only picking up the standard loot. And I don't like that. I do like most loud heists to be soloable, because God knows we need a couple more. But, you know, the cooperative feel, I feel, is what all this mission is about, and you're not getting the full feeling if you're not trying it with a group of friends or guys you're going to find online. And if you are playing in a larger group, you can do it all in one short transportation despite the boot's limitations. And I like that. I mean, one of the other options you can have is always drive the forklift and the car, try and help each other out that way. What's important, though, from doing a lot of the Death Wish difficulty, when you move out with the forklift trucks from any of the spawn points, the couple outside can be very difficult to deal with, mainly because of snipers. That's kind of a bad role, especially on Death Wish. But if you're inside, you want to first of all set the forklifts up so you got them right by the vault door, so you can move them straight onto the trucks and get those guys out there immediately. But it's important you don't have one guy going one at a time. The main issue for that is you're going to be very exposed on the forklifts. Even with the best dodge build in the game, there's no way your luck is going to hold out the whole time if you don't move as a convoy. You want to split the sniper focus, and there are a lot of snipers on this mission, keep in mind, my second least favorite enemy. And also, you're going to want someone to be around there to potentially revive you. Inspire feels so necessary for this mission. So make sure at least one person, preferably 2 or 3 on the higher Death Wish difficulty, has brought Inspire along. Because you only need to necessarily move 3 forklifts, because you only need to move 8 bags on Death Wish difficulty, you can have one guy running alongside. You can run basically as fast, if not slightly faster than the forklift trucks can move, and he can be your revive guy. And because he can actually take cover, you're going to secure yourself within the mission, make sure not everybody gets down, and make sure that guy does have the Inspire skill aced out. So the moving section is a lot of fun. I found it to be a little silly. I failed there an awful lot, I'll be honest. But that's probably my favourite part of the mission. It is so silly driving around the forklift. The forklifts, by the way, are one shot into every single enemy type. So is the muscle car. That feels great. Feels silly. Doesn't make any sense. But it's an important gameplay mechanic, I suppose, and I enjoy doing it. So forklifts, big thumbs up for them, and yeah, the new driving mechanics that have been, I feel, slightly tweaked in one way or another. Also a nice improvement. Keep in mind when you are driving the muscle car over to the trains, it's not an easy drive. It's a pretty windy road. You're going to look as far ahead as you possibly can, and also you're going to run into SWAT vans with the turrets on top, and they're going to be a problem. They can certainly still take you out at this point, so don't rest on your laurels. Try and get through as quickly as you can and as efficiently as you can. That section is definitely the one that gets the blood pumping. It's a load of fun, and I think this new this car chase combat, it's great. I can't wait till Overkill expands on it even more, and it fits very seamlessly into this mission. So, I love it. I think the combat scenarios are excellent. There's a lot of multi-level combat. You're going to have guys abseiling down to you an awful lot, which I, strangely enough, do enjoy. Spawn points aren't too repetitive. Alright, you can catch a couple out with Molotovs occasionally, but on the whole, you're not going to be entirely sure where the enemies are coming out of. There's kind of a Nazi Zombies style with this one. Basically, enemies coming from corridors you can't yourself walk down and jumping over the barricades, which I think is an interesting way to make the spawns feel a little more random and the enemies immediately mingle. Now, I have a couple of problems with the combat situation. As I've already touched on, not a huge fan that it's just a reskin in many places. I feel they could have made some nice little changes to the Shadow Raid map. And I feel like some of my favourite parts of the map that I thought, wow, this would be great to hold a gunfight on, have been left off through the doors remaining locked, which I think is a shame. But I think Overkill wanted to keep it more of a minimalist one-day mission. I don't think it would have necessarily functioned nearly as well if they tried to open up the whole of Murky Water for a full loud heist, so I don't mind that. One of the slight combat issue is the fact that the containers are the only real cover, and they can be a little glitchy. You're going to have enemies often shooting through the doors of them. It can get a bit silly. Enemies find it much easier to take cover, I find, than you do. But that isn't a huge problem in the long run. And then, as I've already touched on, not a huge fan of all the snipers, but what Overkill did a good job of keeping in mind is that they've seemingly increased sniper spawn time, so when you take a sniper out, it actually means something. I really didn't like taking out a sniper and seeing another one 10 seconds later, and they seem to have avoided that to the best of their ability on this heist, so that's a great change. Overall, though, I definitely cannot argue. It's a great deal for 100% free. The overall update is great. I love the new experience system. Haven't had enough time with it to necessarily say whether it's an overall improvement, but I definitely think it's rewarding the right style of play as opposed to the sort of cheese tactic style, the most full and enjoyable style, and I hope that brings it out in everybody. And it's a more combat and stealth orientated, instead of just trying to complete the objectives, instead trying to go through the motions that the game have sort of set out for you, which I like to see. So, good to see the new experience system. I think it's been well tested already. It's not just been thrown in the game haphazardly, so it should overall be a huge success. And this is such a great surprise update. It's also worth mentioning we got a nice free mask with this. Not the easiest to obtain, not the world's most enjoyable achievement to obtain, I'll be honest. But it's still a nice addition. And one final thing I forgot to mention that was added alongside the forklift and the muscle cars in the Shadow Raid heist: explosive barrels. Now, these are the most generic-ass explosive barrels you are ever going to see. They are red with the flammable sign, but goddamn are they satisfying to shoot. Their explosive radius is great, and explosions, as the Overkill guy has realized, are so great. They make the map feel that bit more dynamic, and importantly, they give you options against certain armored enemies, bulldozers, tasers, shields that you wouldn't otherwise have if you're not using your explosive crossbow, your GL40, your piglet, your RPG, which I also really like to see. So another great improvement. Looks a little silly if you ask me, but you know, they're your sort of stereotypical video game barrels. You have to make them look fun to shoot, and that is exactly what they are. Now, I've rambled on an awful lot about this heist. I hope I've made it as clear as possible. All the stages, what you have to do. Please switch your Hoxhead off. Very important. It's going to ruin your mission, unless you're soloing it, of course. It's going to wrongly accuse people of cheating. I mean, you know, one of those guys may well have been a cheater. I'm not going to write him off completely, but as far as I could tell, the cheater thing is an absolute glitch, and I hope Hoxhead guys sort it out quickly, sooner rather than later. I love Hoxhead. It really does improve the game experience for me. So I'm actually hopefully going to be waiting till the next update. That may be out by the time you're watching this, I think, as I said earlier on. So despite those small glitches, which really aren't Overkill's fault, it's a shame it wasn't playtested a bit with Hoxhead beforehand. Amazing heist. In some ways, it's using the same skin we've seen before, but doing so in an incredibly different way from what we've experienced in the past. It's very challenging. It's not too hard, but the Death Wish really is going to throw certain puzzles at you, which you're going to have to sort out in your own different fashion, particularly the crazy forklift moving section where you're in a convoy. You're all getting shot to pieces, and it's pretty funny. I have to admit, I laughed out loud there. And also, one thing I failed to mention, Vlad. I love you, Vlad. I was so upset when I heard Gage wasn't picking this up, but then when I realized it was Vlad, oh, Vlad, you're the best heist giver, I swear. I miss Hector. I shot him in the face, though. So Vlad's my man now. And he really is funny in this heist. I laughed out multiple times at his dialogue lines. They're hilarious. I should have known they'd be hilarious. We're talking about nuclear bombs, radiation, and Vlad. They all seem to go hand in hand, don't they? And they're well spoken. And Bane's lines are also quite funny in this mission. So everything looks smooth, everything looks polished, everything looks very free. I don't know why you guys haven't tried it out already. Or if you have, let me know what you think. If you ran into the same sort of problems I have, or has it been absolutely no problem at all? Great fun, seamless interaction of these new vehicles. Where do you think vehicles need to be used in the future? Do you think they can be improved mechanically? I definitely think there are a couple of steps Overkill do need to take in their road programming, but you know, the sound effects probably make up for it. I love the car sound effects. That's it for this video, guys. Lengthy ramble about the new heist. I love it. Hope you guys do too. Meltdown is great, especially for a free heist, as we've seen with Shadow Raid in the past. Overkill really can come out with some wonderful surprises. See you on the next one.